Fuck people that say you need to live in the gym, train 4 to 6 days a week, build a great physique. This is literally 2 workouts per week, 2 hours per week in the gym, man. No need to live in the gym, no need to sacrifice your life to build a great physique. That's complete and utter fucking bullshit. 2 workouts per week, 5 exercises in each workout, 2 sets per exercise. So working out twice a week is much more effective than working out 4 to 6 days a week for 2 primary reasons. So the first reason is that you need to train hard to stimulate muscle growth. And the more exercises, sets, reps, training days you do, the more your focus and effort is spread thin. So as a result of having so much recovery between workouts, you step into every session fully fresh, fully recovered and able to train really, really hard and stimulate a lot of growth. Most people who are working out 4 to 6 days a week, their focus and effort is diluted and they're just going through the motions in their training and they never actually are able to train hard enough to stimulate muscle growth. And the second reason is to give you plenty of recovery between workouts in order to facilitate consistent strength gains, because it's that progressive overload. It's that stringing together of progressive workouts where you're getting stronger over time that lead up to incredible physique development. So the reason why I have such a contrarian fitness approach where I focus on intensity over volume is because we've known for a long time now that the primary driver of muscle growth is mechanical tension. It's not volume, right? Volume plays a role in muscle growth, don't get me wrong, but you just don't need as much as most people have led you to believe. And so here's the issue with this whole idea of focusing on volume over intensity. If you look at public gym goers, if you look at, the majority of the training population, they're all training 4 to 6 days a week. If you look at their training, they're essentially all just going through the motions, right? And that's because there's a trade-off between volume and intensity. So the more volume you do in the gym, the more training days, the more exercises, the more sets you do, the more your intensity has to drop. And what happens is that your focus, your effort, your resources are diluted amongst so much shit that subconsciously you hold yourself back because you know deep down like, oh fuck, I have a lot of work to get through. I better conserve my energy and intensity. And this leads to people not being able to actually place tension on the muscle, which again is the primary driver of growth, because they can never do justice to any set or any exercise they do in the gym. They can never train with a high enough level of intensity to actually place maximum tension on the muscle. So we have a bunch of people literally investing so much time, so much effort into the gym, getting fuck all results. And that's because volume is nowhere near as important as actually picking a handful of big compound exercises, training them hard, and getting stronger at them over time. And if you look at most people, they are not seeing that gradual progression over time, because the more volume you do, the higher likelihood of overtraining. So the best approach is to do a small amount of training, but push that training really, really hard. And then what happens is, since you have so much recovery between workouts, you're able to step in the gym, train really hard, place maximum tension on the muscle, and then get out of the gym, rest, recover, come back a little bit stronger, and achieve progressive workouts over time where you're seeing progressive overload, which is ultimately the byproduct of muscle growth. So in order to not interfere with my muscle and strength building pursuits in the gym, I like to keep my cardio low intensity, right? So the problem with doing intense running and doing high intensity interval training and all these different forms of cardio is that they not only do they increase your appetite, making it harder to stay lean and making it more likely that you overeat your calories, they actually dig a hole into your recuperative abilities. And when you're natural, when you're not taking performance enhancing drugs, you have finite recovery. You have finite resources to plow into your training and to dedicate towards the building of muscle and strength. So if you want to make the fastest possible progress in the gym, you want to take all those resources and just shove it into your training. And I often tell people, who come up to me, they're like, man, like I love playing basketball, I love doing martial arts. If that's the case, by all means do it, right? Because Polarity Fitness is not about being obsessed with the gym. It's about having, it's about having your fitness dialed in, but it's also about having these different things that you like doing outside of the gym and being able to have time for those different things as a result of not living in the gym. So if it's a matter of cardio is required, for the hobbies I love doing, by all means, don't stop doing them, right? That would defeat the whole purpose. But if you're going on intense runs, you're doing all these forms of cardio in attempts to build a great physique, you don't need to do that, right? This is a complete myth, and cardio is completely counterproductive when it comes to building a great physique. So the issue with a lot of the scientific data regarding training volume and how to build muscle in the most optimal way possible is that, first, a lot of these subjects used in these sort of studies that are seeking to find the optimal amount of training volume, the optimal amount of sets per muscle group, is that these are a lot of times untrained lifters. And typically untrained lifters, and actually a lot of even trained lifters, don't actually know how to train hard and push their sets close to failure. And it comes back to this idea of the trade-off between volume and intensity. The more volume you do, the less intensity you can bring. The more intensity you do, the more your volume drops. So these people are essentially going through the motions. And if you look at them, if you were to watch these people who are the test subjects of a lot of these training volume studies, they're probably leaving like 5 reps in the tank. And no fucking shit. Like if you leave 5 reps in the tank on every set you do, you can do a ton of training volume, right? And the other big issue is that Anyone can do high volume training for a few months. Anyone can fucking do that. It's about, can you do that for years on end? And the answer for most people is no. Because doing a lot of volume tends to lead to overtraining and stagnation. And that's why most people who are in the gym 4 to 6 days a week doing 10 to 20 sets per muscle group, they're all going through the motions and they never actually see that gradual progression over time. And that's because doing a lot of volume is not the productive way to build a great physique. You want to drop the volume and up the intensity. And therefore, every time you step in the gym, you'll be able to train really, really hard because you're actually fresh and recovered and not just like completely fatigued. You'll also be able to achieve progression over time. Fuck.
Most people say listening to music allows you to push your sets a lot harder and closer to failure. Why don't you always listen to music when you're doing that?
Yeah, so sometimes I listen to music, sometimes I don't. The issue that I see with this whole idea of like having to listen to music or having to hype yourself up before your sets is that you can't use it as a crutch, right? It can't be a crutch to get you to train hard. You should have a strong enough why for why you're building your physique, why you're training hard in the gym. And that should be what carries you through your sessions and those hard sets, right? You have to keep that internal reason at heart and in mind when you're training. And the truth is, if you're training properly, there's a good chance that when you're in those hard sets, you don't even realize that there's music there because you have to fucking become the set. You have to become the set. Like when I'm in a hard set of squats, I'm not focused on anything but becoming that fucking set. Like being completely in that set and being laser focused on the proper execution of each rep and bringing maximum intensity. So focus is a very underrated aspect of training. Like you need to be so focused on those heavy sets. When you're on those work sets, you need to be just absolutely laser focused on both the execution of that, making sure your technique is tight, but also making sure that you really bring a high level of intensity to each and every rep. You want to think of the set as like one rep at a time and make sure each rep is perfect. And when you focus on that, you don't need some external force to get you through your workouts. You don't need to hype yourself up. You just need to, focus, zone in, and stay centered during your sets. Hey, man.
Good to see you, man.
How are things with you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm not too bad. I've noticed that like the weight, I can't tell if it's water or not, has been coming off.
But are you struggling with anything related to hitting that calorie number, and like have you seen your weight drop at all?
I've seen my weight drop like on the scale. I've noticed like my body fat levels are changing. Also, like especially the strength training is really helping. I'm kind of like, it's gonna sound like weird, but like I feel like, as weird as it sounds, I'm gonna get my results faster than I feel like I deserve them.
What do you mean, like in terms of like once you get the result, keeping it?
It happens so fast. I feel like when I cut down and get my results at the rate that I'm going, I feel like it's going faster than I deserve. Like I don't know if I'm gonna keep the discipline. That's one thing that's I'm a little worried about, because I noticed like I don't know if I'm learning enough discipline at the rate that my weight is coming off.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, to be honest with you, you don't want to rely on discipline to be in shape. Like, yeah, like a little bit of discipline is necessary. But the truth is, discipline and willpower are finite. Like we don't have that much as human beings. We don't have that much willpower and discipline. So for you to say that, like I'm hearing good shit when you say that. Like when you say like, oh, I don't know if I'm building discipline, like that's good. Like you don't want to have to be thinking about, am I disciplined? Like you don't want that, man, because if you want to stay in shape for the rest of your life, you can't be relying on discipline to stick to your diet. You can't. Like you have to like it. You have to enjoy it, So that's a good thing. That means you're doing things properly. You don't want to have to rely on discipline and willpower. I used to rely on discipline and willpower to stick to diets, and I was constantly running on a hamster wheel. I would take a few steps forward, and then I would sabotage myself back down. And that's how it constantly worked. But if you don't have to rely on willpower and discipline, then you're not even dieting. Like, think about that. You're losing fat, you're getting in shape, but you're not even dieting. That's awesome, you know?
So you want to, so it's not like you're kind of doing this to hold yourself a little bit accountable. Like you're enjoying the process throughout genuinely, like every aspect of it, and still getting lean while you do it. Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You want to you have to enjoy it, man. Like, you have to. If you don't enjoy it, then it's not going to last. It's not going to last. Like, the way that I sort of structured your plan and the way that I teach fitness is to make it into a lifestyle that you can enjoy. Because it's the only way to succeed, man. It's not about following a crazy strict plan, restrictive diets, doing a ton of cardio, being in the gym all the time. It's more about sustainability. It's like, how do I hit on the core principles that drive results forward on a consistent basis and enjoy that process. Fuck. What I've learned through my experience is that progressive overload is crucial. However, progressive overload isn't necessarily the primary driver of muscle growth. The primary driver of muscle growth is mechanical tension, which has a lot more to do with just making sure that you're pushing your sets close to failure and stimulating growth. Progressive overload is essentially a byproduct of muscle growth. And progressive overload and adding weight to the bar over time is crucial to make sure that you are continuously adding more tension, right? So if I stick with this weight for a few weeks, my body is going to adapt to the tension that this weight is placing on my muscle, and therefore I will need to increase the load in order to increase the tension. And the progressive overload, what I'm able to add to the bar over time in weight, is a sign that my physique is improving and that I am gaining muscle, because all else equal, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. And most people do not see that progressive overload over time. And the way to actually make sure that you are seeing that muscle growth over time is, again, to train really, really hard in the gym, stimulate growth, and then get out, let your body rest, recover, give it time to grow. And then what happens is that is what allows you to build muscle. And then you come back to the gym and you'll notice, like, oh shit, I'm a little bit stronger. And that's because your body's built muscle. And then you'll need to add some weight to the bar to increase that tension. And you need to keep doing this over time. And then seeing that rate of strength gain is a sign that your training is working and that you are building muscle. Oh man, wow.
So you're on quite a big cup right now. How does that affect your training?
So cutting, especially when you're getting very lean, affects your training massively. And the primary goal when you're cutting should just be to maintain your strength in the gym. That's the primary goal. If you're new to training and you're quite overweight and you have a lot of fat to lose, you can make progress when you're cutting. However, at my stage of training, I've been training for 7 years and I was already quite lean relative to like what the average person is at the beginning of my cut. So I just strive to maintain my strength. And even then, sometimes it drops a little bit. And that's completely fine, because the way bulking and cutting works is that when you bulk, you essentially create a new set point, right? You create a new set point for the amount of muscle that your body can hold. And thanks to muscle memory, you can get your muscle to a certain level, and then you can lose it a little bit, and it comes back very, very easily. And that's sort of how bulking and cutting works. You create a new set point through packing on lots of muscle, and then you cut, and you inevitably lose a little bit of muscle and strength. But then once you go back into a calorie surplus and you start eating more, you will regain that lost muscle, and you'll be bigger at a leaner body fat percentage. Right? So you don't have to sort of stress about losing a little bit of strength. It's not a problem. A lot of times it's actually just because of glycogen depletion. And as soon as you bring your calories up a little bit, that sort of strength, that muscle comes back very fast. And you sort of have to be okay with the fact that when you're cutting, you're in a catabolic state. You're not in an anabolic state where you're growing, you're constantly gaining muscle, you're gaining strength. You're in a catabolic state. Your body's actively eating itself. You're losing your body actively, right? You're losing mass. And that's something that you have to be okay with in your mind, because if you're not okay with that, you'll never actually get lean, because you'll have conflicting goals. You want to be really big, you want to be really strong, but you also want to be lean. That's not how it works. So my dinner structure is pretty much always the same. It's always a protein source, a carb such as either potatoes, rice, or pasta, and then a vegetable, which is usually broccoli. So I'll usually rotate between like chicken and beef, but I tend to stick more towards chicken breast, but it always has those elements, and that's what I like. That's what keeps me really full and satisfied on a cut. And I also do that when I'm bulking. This is one of my favorite meals, and I eat this pretty much every single day just because it's simple. It's got a lot of nutrition and it keeps me full.
Tell me a bit about how your dinner meal is different from the rest of your meals.
Yeah, so my dinner meal is different in that it's a very sizable fucking portion of food. My meals throughout the day tend to be a little bit lighter, because I think of my day as like a fucking feast and famine, right? I want to basically conquer throughout the day. I want to stay light. I want to stay focused. I want to, I don't want to feel weighed down by a ton of food. So I like to keep my meals very light throughout the day, eat fewer calories. And then when the evening comes and I finish my work for the day, I like to just eat food and then, pass the fuck out a few hours later. What I would recommend strongly is that you pick your sort of meal frequency based upon your appetite. So if you're someone with a huge appetite like myself, I was a fat fuck growing up, and that appetite is still with me, right? So if that's the case for you as well, you'll want to eat fewer but bigger meals. If you're someone with a small appetite and you struggle to get your calories in, you'll want to eat smaller meals spread out throughout the day. And that's my general philosophy when it comes to meal frequency. Most people put way too much weight on meal frequency though. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you just need to hit the few principles that you need to hit, which is like hit your calories, hit your protein, get enough whole foods, and then however you can eat 6 meals a day, you can eat 2 meals a day, you can eat fucking, however many meals you want to eat to hit on those principles to hit your calories and protein. It's whatever. You just got to find what works best for you and your lifestyle. And this is what works best for me. Save the calories mostly for my dinner meal and just eat light throughout the day to keep myself focused. So I switch up my isolation exercises every 2 to 3 months. So unlike with my compound exercises, I like to rotate my isolation exercises a little bit more frequently, just because when you're chipping away at the same isolation exercises for long periods of time, you tend to develop some overuse issues, right? And the reason being is because isolation exercises are single joint movements, and it puts a lot more stress on the individual joint than doing a compound exercise, which is multi-joint and puts a lot less stress on the individual joints. So people are under this misconception that you have to switch your exercises every 3 weeks to maintain a novel stimulus and constantly shock the muscle. That's complete and utter fucking bullshit, because you want to stick with the same exercises, especially compound exercises, your main lifts that you're striving to master. You want to stick with them for a long period of time, because the primary goal that you should have in the gym is to have a handful of compound exercises that are well suited to you, that work a lot of muscle in the body, and master them. Absolutely master the execution of them and get really, really strong at them over time. That's what leads up to an incredible physique. A lot of people think it's boring because they're not switching their workouts every few weeks, but that's where the real gains are made, because the first 3 to 4 weeks of doing a new exercise, you're actually just making neural adaptations to that exercise. You're not actually stimulating growth or building real strength. It's really in those later periods of time in your training cycles where you're really stimulating growth, where you've mastered the exercise. Every set you do is maximum muscle fiber recruitment, right? So you want to stick with the same compound lifts for long periods of time, master them, get as strong as you can at them. And then with the isolation exercises, you can rotate them every 2 to 3 months to keep things fresh in that sense and avoid overuse injuries.
Why do you... Oh wow, why did you finish it?
Now I am. Raw, authentic, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Looks at the camera.
Got it. Well, you're not gonna use that fucking, you know. You can't tell me not to look at something and of course I'm gonna look at it. Like, don't look at that window, dude.
You already pointed, I was already going there.
Exactly, I know, I added a little extra to it, you know, a little hand gesture.